Welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest. We are powered by Everlight Solar, and here's today's episode. Hey folks, welcome to the Cripescast. Today my guest is comedian Steve Trevino. Maybe you've seen one of his 6 comedy specials. The latest special, Simple Man, is on Netflix. He's got a lot of comedy about life, marriage, raising kids, stories of growing up, all that sort of stuff. He also does a podcast with his wife, Steve Trevino, and Captain Evil. And he's got, you've seen him around, is the point. He's currently on his 2024 Good Life tour. He was just in Milwaukee, actually, but he's got more dates to go. So check out his website, stevetrevino.com. And he will be our guest momentarily. Before we get to the podcast, I want to let you guys know that we are continuing to raise money for Doctors Without Borders. Doctors Without Borders is doing great work, especially in the Middle East right now. You can check them out, doctorswithoutborders.org, or follow them at Doctors Without Borders. And also, folks, before we get into the deal, I am on the road. I am going to be in Bemidji, Minnesota. And then going over to Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan, then Van Wert, Ohio, doing a bunch of Ohio dates, Columbus, Dayton. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to be on the road until spring of 2025. So everywhere from Oregon to Texas, and, I'm going to get around, guys. Okay, so I love to see you on the road. Come on out, and you can get those tickets, cripescast.com. Just click on the tour section, or charliebarons.com if you don't know how to spell cripes. Anyways, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with comedian Steve Trevino.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah, you like Milwaukee?
Dude, I love that town, man. It's actually kind of I don't know. It's just there's something blue collar about it, but nice, and I love going to Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's definitely Rust Belt town, manufacturing town, all that sort of stuff. That's all pretty present. Where have you played when you come out here? You've done the Pabst or something?
I did the Improv and sold that out. So they moved me to the Pabst. We sold that out. So then the Pabst was like, let's put them in the Riverside. And then
that's the shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah, and then I didn't sell it out. So
you find your limit in the city like that. Those are cool green rooms, though. Like especially at the Pabst where they got the video, they got Buck Hunter down there and everything.
Dude, I was so impressed. I mean, it was you go down there and you're like, wow, you guys got like a coffee guy, and
yeah,
you're like, what? This is awesome. But as a performer, and I'm sure you feel the same way. There's just something special about those nostalgic rooms and green rooms and the writing on the wall. And it just feels like real artists have been there.
Yeah. Yeah. It does, and then you kind of go from playing those to playing like a high school,
Well, what's even worse is like a corporate, right?
Oh,
when you get there and you're like, well, the tables are 12 feet from the stage, or even worse, they have a dance floor laid out, and then you got to perform on the stage, and then they just went through some like bull crap award ceremony for Employee of the Month, and then they're like, hey, go up, and I'm like, dude, I was a star last week. I was at the Pabst with the coffee, you know what I mean? Like it's just
it's what you're describing is it's just scary accurate. That was the exact same gig I did like 2 weeks ago. But why? I don't know why they put the tables so far back. But like in comedy, I guess for us it's intuitive. But for other people, they don't know that you want like people on top of people creates a good energy.
And then I hate when they go, and we decided that you're going to perform while they're eating. I'm like, oh, man, you're such a genius. Perfect.
Yeah.
So
everyone loves to laugh when they got a steak in their mouth,
Yeah. It's the worst. But I've kind of gotten to the point, and you're as successful, if not more successful than I am, where I can actually call and go, this is what I need.
Yeah.
The tables have to be up against the stage. You have to let them know several times that there's a comedy show happening. You have to not do it during dinner. You have to lower the lights. I mean, I give them like hopefully all the things that I can do to succeed.
Well, those are, I mean, that's a really good idea is to do that. I have not ever done that, but I always like to, I don't even think necessarily about it till like, I'm on my way there and I'm like, that'd be a really good idea. But yeah, it's, I don't know what goes on during some of the corporate things are great, but some of them it's like, I just go, I do my set and I'm like, I'm just a terrible comedian. I don't know. It didn't work. I don't know why it's so hard to, I mean, I think if you can get laughs in that setting, then your material is truly good,
So here's some of my tips and tricks that I use, right? Where I walk on stage and then I go, first of all, it's all a comedy show, right? And I want this to turn into a comedy club tonight.
Yeah.
So in order for it to turn into a comedy club, guys, we got to clap when I walk on stage. So let's practice clapping. But then what I do is I go, okay, where's HR? And usually they go right over here. And then I go, listen, HR, if you don't laugh, we're going to have problems. I go, so even if you don't think it's funny, but it's not inappropriate, I go, please laugh. And then that gets a laugh. And then I go, where's your boss? And then they point to their boss and I go, hey, boss, how far can I go? PG, dirty. And then sometimes he's like, just go for it. I'm like, you heard him. Let's go. So
that's genius. That's genius.
That's kind of how I set it up because you hate failing. Like and I don't know, you've seen them, these comics that walk on stage and I call it the phantom laughs and they eat it. And then they walk off stage and go, dude, did you see that? And I'm like, did you see that?
Yeah.
You ate it. Like if I did what you just did, I would never do comedy again.
I think that there is definitely that mentality that goes on. And I think there was one time I remember being that person where I was like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. And then I went back and I listened to it. I was like, what was I even hearing? Like, right. What was I hearing on stage? Because listening back, I was like, this is awful, and that's why I always film the sets. But yeah, I think if you're not like listening back, like pretty critically, because in the moment you can find like maybe a few people that are laughing and maybe you only see it here, but like if the back of the room is like dead, then that's most of the people are not right up front.
But it's you have to have a little bit of delusion to do what we do.
Oh yeah. Maybe a little bit more than a little bit.
Yeah. There has to be a lot of delusion to go, it's up to me to make all these people laugh. And I'm the only one allowed to talk. Like that is such an arrogant thing and a delusional thing to go, no, I belong up there and all of you need to laugh at everything I say. Like that's a crazy person.
It is. So I guess the natural question is, how did you get so delusional?
I don't know, divorced parents, going to different schools every single year and trying to make friends and realizing that, being funny was a good way to make friends and to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And I needed to make friends and I needed to defend myself. So, the idea is, and I think it's you get family members that go, God, you're so funny. And then you go to elementary school and they go, God, you're so funny. And then you go to high school and they go, man, you're funniest in the yearbook. Right. And you go, that's it.
Yeah.
I need to go do this. It's the same thing with the homecoming queen. Right. Oh, you're so beautiful. And she goes, man, I won prom queen and I won homecoming queen. Well, I got to go to LA now.
Yeah. And then after that, it's like, I guess I'm selling real estate,
Yeah.
But so you had that positive reinforcement. You grew up like a funny person. Since you had to move around a lot, you developed your like tight five of like, this is who I am. This is where I'm from. This is all that sort of stuff. And you just kept tweaking it each year, kind of.
Man, and I hate to say this out loud, but I'm going to. I'm at that point in my life where I'm like,
Okay.
whatever. I've had maybe two terrible sets my entire life.
Wow.
Maybe two. And when I say that, I mean like eating it, right? I'm not saying that I was funny my entire time. I take it back. I was always able to get laughs.
Yeah.
Maybe the material wasn't great, or the content of the material wasn't great, but I just always had this confidence about myself that I could get a laugh. There's only been two times where I didn't get any laughs. Everybody was awkward. I was awkward, and I wanted to kill myself. And I shouldn't say that, but that's the truth. Like it feels so bad that I wanted to crawl in a hole and disappear. But that only happened twice. It's not like it wasn't I used to go to the Comedy Store and watch guys, and I would go, why is this person still doing this?
Yeah.
But then 2 years later, they were great.
Yeah.
One of the biggest touring comedians, and I won't name any names, and he's hilarious. When I first moved to LA, he was the worst comic I had ever seen. And I thought to myself, this guy, what are you doing? Now he's absolutely hilarious and sells out arenas. So I guess with time and that confidence, you can get there, right? But I don't think that I would have had the heart to continue to try to get there had I had those sets.
Yeah. And it really does take a level of close to insanity or close to something to, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's ego. I don't think it's ego because, well, there's definitely some ego because to go up and do as badly as I've probably done on stage that I know I've done, and then to get back, that can't be a death of ego. There's got to be something in there that gets you back up.
I think there's ego. I think there's a little bit of arrogance. I think there's a little bit of tenacity inside of you, right? Where it's one of those, I kicked you and you're going to get up, and I kicked you and you're going to get up, and you just have that attitude of like, I'm going to win. But I think that's in life, man. In life, if you have that tenacity, if you have that grit of I will fail, but I'm going to go again. And in my career, no matter how funny I've been or how funny I have been, I have been able to have to go, I got to find another way. I got to go to social media. I got to produce my own specials. I got to continue to figure out, if I would have said, look, the industry's not calling, I guess hang it up, I would have been done. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But it was still that ego of, no, I belong here. My material needs to get out there. I got to get on stage. I got to self-produce. I got to do something. And I think there's some tenacity behind it as well,
1,000%. Yeah. And so let's talk about sort of your career, because you've been in this business you've been in this business longer than me, and you've seen like a lot of different changes in stand-up comedy. But first time you got on stage was like you were a teenager, right?
Second grade.
Okay.
I wanted to be a comedian from second grade. I went to the talent show and auditioned to be a comedian. And the crazy part is there was another guy that also auditioned to be a comedian. I'd love to see that guy. And I would love to talk to him and go, what are you doing now? But I just on second grade got on stage and wanted to do stand-up. And when you grow up in Gregory, Portland, Texas, where I grew up, and there was no comedy club. The town I grew up in had 1,800 people in it. The town next to us had 6,000 people. So combined, we made a high school. So I didn't even know where to begin or where to go or what to do or how to do it. And then my cousin calls me up and he goes, man, I live next to an improv comedy club in Dallas, Texas. And I was like, I'm going. So at 19 years old, I was already doing stand-up. By 21, I was on my first big national tour. And then by 24 or 25, I was already headlining improvs and Funny Bones.
Wow.
So I've had a great career in the fact that I've always been able to make a living doing it. But it wasn't until I self-produced a special, broke it into clips and put it out there that I went viral. But I'm also in that generation where you were still hearing about guys that were getting sitcom deals and development deals, and they would do the Tonight Show and get a deal, or they would be performing at the Comedy Store, and before you know it, they were in a sitcom or a movie. So I was in that in between where things were changing, and I quickly realized that I got to change with it. I can't, the development deals aren't happening. They're not doing many sitcoms around stand-ups anymore. What am I going to do to create my career? And I just jumped on the social media wagon because it was happening.
Yeah.
Dane Cook was using MySpace to become the biggest comedian in the world. And that was kind of the switch for me. But the opposite is true for these young cats, man. These young guys come into the business and they already know to go straight to TikTok and straight to, and then they go, oh, well, these crowd work clips are going viral. I'll do that. But at the same time, they're not working on their craft like I did. They're not scrapping it out in the comedy clubs trying to become a good comedian. They're great at social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in that in-between generation of both.
Yeah, and that is a tough distinction of like being a great crowd work comic or a great. I almost think it's all different for the crowd work that works on social media clips and the crowd work that works in the room. That's almost two different skill sets.
Yep.
But what does it mean, like, for you to be a great comedian? What does a great stand-up special have?
Well, first and foremost, and this is just my opinion, because I think that a lot of people differ from this opinion, it should be funny. I look for laughs per minute, LPMs, okay. I call them, right?
Okay.
I want my laughs per minute to be super, super high. So
can I interrupt you just for a second and say, like, the way with the seriousness that you just said, it should be funny.
Yeah, dude.
It was hilarious. I don't know.
But,
all right.
but it's funny because it's true, right? And you see these stand-ups now and you go, wow, this person is considered comedy. This is a stand-up comedy special. And look, there's different strokes for different folks, and I'm sure people love it. But for me, when you think about stand-up comedy, it's supposed to be laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
But you also, to be a great comedian, you also have to make people think. One of my big ingredients for my stand-up is heart. Mm-hmm. I want there to be some real moments and some heart in there and some real feelings of touching your soul and touching your heart while I make you laugh hysterically. So that's the well-crafted stories and well-crafted jokes, and also bringing in the emotion and getting people to feel what you're talking about and that touch them, if you will, in a way that just telling a joke does, right? So for me, a good stand-up should be able to be hilariously funny while delivering a message, while also making sure that you are writing and making people think. So that to me would be an amazing special.
Yeah, I mean, and you do bring a lot of heart into your stuff. I remember you have this one bit about you and your wife listening to arguments in the grocery store, and then like the argument was about a bag of chips. Sorry to retell your bit for the audience, but you got a bag of chips there, and they're fighting over the bag of chips, and then you tell your wife, and you guys start repeating their argument.
Yeah, like, I always say, how are we fighting their fight?
Yeah,
I was just trying to tell you their fight because I thought it was funny. Now, how the hell are we fighting their fight? But those are also real moments that happen to me and real things that happen in my life. And I think that for the people that love what I do, they go, oh my gosh, it's so real, it's so relatable, it's so close to mine and my wife's life. I'm on board, right? And I think that a lot of times comedians go, oh man, what's funny about that football locker you have behind you? Let me write a joke about, let me write a joke about that football locker in a dude's house that has his hat backwards and you know what I mean? And to me, it's like I don't write jokes about things. I tell the story and I insert the jokes inside the story.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, have you always been that kind of comedian? Because I mean, I guess what you would be describing, are you talking like the difference between like a storytelling comic and sort of an observational comic or a one-liner comic?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I try to combine actually all of it, right? I try to go, I'm going to tell a story, but I'm going to do an observational story and joke, but I'm also going to write a great one-liner, and I'm going to tie it all into a bow. But I wasn't always that. I was always able to get laughs because I was always very physical and very confident. You know, I can't tell you how many times I humped the stool to get a laugh, right? Because I was good at moving my body and being physical. And then there was a big moment for me at the Comedy Store and watching Chris Rock craft a 1 hour special. He sits on the stool with a notepad at midnight at the Comedy Store in front of 15 people, and he'll just read the premise and the joke, and then he'll look at the audience. And then I saw him then piece it all together. I saw him get the joke, and then I saw him make the words work. And then once he got the words to work, then I saw him perform it. And that for me was a big light bulb where I was like, oh, he's making sure that even if he didn't perform it, it works.
I see. So, because people laugh at anything, his thought was, I'm Chris Rock. People are going to laugh at anything because kind of the way I say things is
Right.
hilarious, which is true. And they love him already. So he just wants to boil it down to that first.
Yeah. So he took his cadence away, he took the delivery away, and he took the performance away. And he just wanted to make sure that the words worked. And man, that was a huge light bulb for me because I was like, man, if I can learn to write and then tie in this physical ability I have and my cadence and my delivery, then I can become a good comic. So that's what I started really working on. And I think it paid off.
Yeah. I mean, so is the Comedy Store sort of the place you came up, and when did you make the move from Dallas? By the way, I lived in Dallas for a little bit. I did the news out there at the CW 33, formerly the WB.
Yeah, Jagger was all over that, the radio DJ.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's such a dude. That guy used to come to the Improv and he would just walk in because he expected to be comped. Like it was it was unbelievable. Like he would just walk in. I'd be like, "Hey, sir," and he'd be like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess you're good." But
I did the because we worked. He, I believe, was at this. There was some concert there, right? Some concert in Irvine or something, and I was supposed to introduce Fits and the Tantrums. So I'm excited because I'm like, I don't know, 25, 26, and I do the news. So this actually feels like more what I want to do is be on stage in front of people. So I'm super pumped, and then it's like a minute before I'm about to introduce Fits and the Tantrums, band I liked, and then up comes Pauly Shore with yeah, exactly. He had a camera crew, and he goes, in the very Pauly Shore way, I think I'm going to introduce Fits and the Tantrums, bro. So he bumps me to introduce Fits and the Tantrums, and it was hilarious, man. He had this crowd of people. He was like, "You guys remember Encino Man?"
Just going off,
doing his thing. Yeah, he's I get a kick out of that guy. Do you know him at all? Being at the Comedy Store.
Dude, I love the guy. I always like to look at people kind of as a whole, and the fact that this guy was being babysat at Hollywood parties with Robin Williams and Richard Pryor and Sam Kinison, for him to be as hardworking as he is and actually still be alive is very impressive.
Yes, absolutely.
And he works hard. I mean, the guy works hard on his stand-up. He works hard on his bookings. He's a very hardworking guy. And people just look at him as this doofus weasel guy. And he's not, man. The guy is nonstop at the Comedy Store. You go there during the day, he's in the office working on bookings and deals. And he's just a hardworking dude. But, I gravitated to the Comedy Store because it was the hardest. it was the hardest room. And when I moved to LA, everybody was afraid of it. And you had all the people that hung out at the Improv, then you had all the people that hung out at the Laugh Factory, and then all these savages hung out at the Comedy Store at that time. And I would watch everybody go on stage in these different rooms, and the most challenging room was the Comedy Store. So I was like, if I can get good here, then I can be good. Mm-hmm. And, I was just looking for the more challenging room and the harder path, because I know the harder path leads to, being better. So when I saw the Comedy Store, I was like, man, I got to go hang out over there, and I got to figure out this stage. And, because for several years in Dallas, I was the house MC at the Addison Improv, but I'm getting these badass headlining weeks with, big names and sold out shows. And I thought I was amazing, and then I go on tour on the Three Amigos tour, and we're doing arenas, and I'm killing. I'm like, man, I'm going to be famous tomorrow. I'm so good. I walk on stage at the Comedy Store, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is hard. But yet these other guys are killing in here. I got to do that. So that's why I gravitated to the Comedy Store, because I wanted the more gritty, the harder room to really sharpen my tools. And I think a lot of times, man, people take the path of least resistance, and I'm kind of a stubborn soul, man. I'll go the hard way, because my whole life has not been easy. I've worked my whole life, and it's just my attitude. Let me conquer the hard stuff instead of staying in a comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, what was your first job?
Oh, roofing houses at 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My dad put me on a roof at 12 for my uncle's company, and I would roof houses. We would build hurricane shutters. We would paint like 7-Elevens and Circle K's, and so I worked construction with my uncle from 12 to 16, and then I started waiting tables at 16, and then worked the door and waited tables at the Improv. And then I've been a comedian professionally since I was 21. I turned 21 on the road.
Wow. Yeah, do you think it's that early work ethic? Is that where it came from? The work ethic, working with your dad, working with your uncle, construction, that bled into the comedy stuff?
And I took a blue collar approach to stand up. I was like, I'm gonna find a way to outwork everybody. And if there's a $25 set, and then I can run over across town and get another $50 set, and then the next day I can do it again, and then I can get 100 here and 100 there. And little did I know, doing all those sets made me a better comedian. But I was like, I am not getting a real job anymore. I'm going to work my ass off. If I have to go make $25 over here and 50 over here and 75 over here, I'm going to go get it. And I just had that attitude. But man, 1000%. And when you grow up in Gregory, Portland, Texas, around a bunch of farmers, pipe fitters, welders, refinery workers, I mean, I'm country. I wear cowboy boots. I grew up, going country dancing and two-stepping and getting in fist fights and hunting and fishing. And I mean, you don't get any more country than the way I grew up. To then go to Hollywood, I didn't know how to network. I didn't know how to, to get a headshot together or a website together. I was like, man, I'm going to freaking go on stage and try to be the best I can be.
When you got to LA, did you have like a crew that you came up with, or did you kind of do it? Were you kind of like a lone wolf?
And I was kind of a lone wolf, only because I didn't come up with any of those guys. A lot of those guys started the door together, so they had their little group. I was in Addison doing my thing, getting on the road, touring. Then I moved to LA. I'm already touring. I'm already on the road. I'm working for a show on Comedy Central, and I'm a kid. I mean, I'm 23, 24 years old. Everybody else my age was still working the door, doing their 7 minutes at the comedy clubs. And here I had already been on tour, already headlining Improvs and Funny Bones, already on a show on Comedy Central. So, I was kind of on my own. And I've always been kind of and it's terrible to say, but I never really got along with anybody out there. I never meshed with anybody.
That
You
kind of makes
know,
sense.
I was not them. I wore cowboy boots. I drove a 1978 K5 Blazer.
Oh,
I worked on my own car. I just wasn't them. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I've been in LA myself, and coming from Wisconsin, not the same kind of upbringing as you, but I started working at 12 myself as a caddy. Much more cushy job than the roofing,
Yeah.
by a
A little
long
more
shot.
white. A little more white. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go out to those things. But I mean, I did a bunch of different jobs, caddying, lawns as a bike mechanic, all that. Auntie Anne's pretzel roller. I had a high turnover in my jobs. But I think the thing that you get when you start working that early is sort of like so many moments of work. I don't know what kind of a worker you were, but for me, I was like, I could not stand work, like the time I was spending to get the money I was getting. And I think when I had just the sense of an opportunity to make money doing something I kind of liked, I just held on super tight, you know? And it seems like maybe there's a similar thing with you of like, I'm not going back to that kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, when I was dating my wife, she goes, "You got to go get a job." She goes, we're not making it. And I go, "I can go work at Target, or I can go wait tables, or I can make $1,500 telling jokes for a weekend. I just got to get more of those."
Right,
So,
right.
so let me
Yeah.
let me work on it, and ultimately it worked out. But yeah, I mean, I just never meshed with those guys in LA, and I'm friends with them, and we all know each other, and I say hello. But I used to look at them and go, and I'm again, I don't name any names because I love comedians, and there's a comedian for everybody. So I don't ever say anything negative about comedians. But I would look at some of these guys and go, I don't want to be you. I don't want to be 45 years old, standing at the Comedy Store every night till 3 a.m.
Hmm.
I want a wife. I want kids. I want to wake up with my kids and take them to school. I want to coach Little League. I want to be involved. I have no, there's nothing inside of me that feels like I have to go to, I live here in Texas. I don't have to go to the mothership to hang out.
Right.
I just, it's not in me. And I know, and I used to watch these guys and go, number one, you have a career, you have all the money in the world. I'm at the Comedy Store because I have to be, and I have to be seen, and I have to get better. But you have a career. I also know you have a wife and kids. Why are you here on a Tuesday till 3 o'clock in the morning?
Probably because he's got a wife and kids. Yeah. No,
Well, no, but I get it, right? But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love my wife and kids, and I
Yeah.
want to wake up in the morning. So I was just cut from a different cloth. I have a life. I live a normal life. Comedy is not. It doesn't define who I am. You know what I mean?
Well, I think beyond that, you can sort of see people who, if you spend all your time doing that, you miss out on the things that, like what you're saying, the little coaching Little League bit. You don't have that if you are spending your time in that situation. I think that's a hard thing for comedians to figure out, especially as they get past a certain point, is how do I stay relatable when my life is now very unrelatable,
Right, right. You know
And
what it's like when your helicopter comes to pick you up. You get it, and it's like, no, dude. Yeah, I don't get it. My private jet, like, oh yeah, that's real freaking relatable, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just started to admire the Ray Romanos and the Jeff Foxworthys and the Jim Gaffigans and the Larry the Cable guys, and I started looking at these guys, and I said, man, these guys have a whole career, and I don't see them at the Comedy Store every night.
Right.
I want to be those guys. Jeff Foxworthy lives in Georgia and has always lived in Georgia and does his church Bible study at a McDonald's on Tuesdays. and raises his kids and is happily married. And I'm like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And if you want that, you have to work it into your life, into your career. But like you said, it helps my stand up and it keeps me relatable.
Folks, we are powered and presented by Everlight Solar. For those of you who don't know, here at Cripes HQ, we are not only powered by great ideas, but we're powered by the sun. You like that? How I just complimented my ideas and called them great? Anyways, the sun does more powering, all right? But we've had solar panels on this roof for a few years now, and let me just tell you, that is a great idea, okay? Because you're not paying. You're not paying, and it's good for the environment. It's good for your bank account. So check them out, everlightsolar.com. Book your free consultation. See how solar energy can work for you. Give it a go. Also, folks, I got to tell you, you keeping your car ready for the change in seasons? That is important. Well, Fleet Farm and Auto Service Center are here to help make sure your car is in top shape year-round. Visit fleetfarm.com to schedule an appointment to get a brand new set of tires put on your car from brands like Goodyear, Cooper, and Michelin. Or if you're worried about your car having the power to start up and get running, they've got a huge selection of batteries. So you'll have no issues finding one perfect deal for your vehicle. You like that? I tried to make that rhyme. Anyway, you're going to get a great deal for your vehicle over there at the Fleet Farm, whether you're DIY car owner or you need a little help with some under the hood. Fleet Farm's got you covered when it comes to everyday care. And folks, aside from listening to this show, which thank you so much for doing, there are a few different ways you can support. You can buy merch on crepescast.com. Click on the merch section. We got all the Man Talk Mint merch there. Everything from hoodies to playing cards, koozies. Oh, and we got a new beanie for the Barron's Old Fashioned Brandy, hot off the merch presses. So check that out. We got tickets to our show on the road. Click on the tour section. I'm coming all around the U.S. over the next 9 months, so hope to see you guys on the road. And of course, patreon.com/Charlie Barons. That gives you access to extended cuts, deleted scenes, bonus sketches. Oh, and even ticket links. So right now, if you go to Patreon, if you subscribe, you're going to get first access to tickets to the show. So anyway, check it out, patreon.com/Charlie Barons. And thank you guys for listening to the Cripescast. And here we go back to my conversation with Steve on coaching Little League. What, there are a lot of parents out there. Some of them I know who are considering being a coach. Do you have any advice for them? Maybe three pieces of advice, anything you want to tell them?
Don't be the head coach.
Okay.
Do not be the head coach. Do not have to break parents' hearts. You have, just like in comedy, you have delusional parents, and you have to deal with that. I mean, I'm the assistant to the assistant to the assistant. And I still have parents calling me going, Steve, I think this or I think that. Can you help us? And it's just like, I don't make the decisions. I go out there. I'm the hype man. I help out. I have fun. I want my kid to see that I'm involved so that when I go on the road, maybe someday when I'm dead and gone and my son's a grown man, he can say, you know what? My dad tried. My dad went out of his way to be with me. My dad went out of his way to coach. So my advice is don't be the head coach, number one. Number two, shoot everybody completely straight. Mm-hmm. Right? Don't hold back. And once they learn that you're going to tell them the truth, they will stop calling.
Like the truth will set you free.
Yes. Once you sit there and you go, your kid has no business on this team, but he is on this team because your check cleared. And we're going to do our best to make him a better player because we love your kid. Uh-huh. But don't bitch because he sits on the bench because that's where he belongs right now. And all of a sudden, your phone call stops. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, I just love being involved.
Yeah.
Because I coach jujitsu and football and baseball.
Yeah. Do you see in coaching, do you see sort of other coaches that do the thing where they take it too seriously?
Oh my God, dude, all the time. And as a matter of fact, I've had several times where I've had to go, hey man, let's go have coffee. And then we sit down and have coffee and I go, hey dude, they're 8. Like, are we aware that they're 8? Nobody's going to D1 baseball right now. Let's chill out.
Yeah.
Let's make it fun and let's have a good time doing it. Of course, we want to try to win, but dude, chill out. Some of these dads, winning a championship ring to them with 8-year-olds is their entire life.
That's what I was asking. Like, where does that, is that it? Like they're sort of living vicariously through their kid, or do they think themselves that they're going to go from Little League to high school to college to the majors themselves? Like, where's the mentality? Is it for their kid or themselves?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think there's a little bit of living vicariously through their kids, and then a little bit of, I want my kid to go pro. And my philosophy is, I'm just trying to raise a good man.
Yeah.
That's it. I want my kid to be a good man. Baseball teaches a lot of those lessons: how to win, how to lose, how to be a teammate, how to root for your teammate when they're not doing well, how to be a leader. It teaches a lot of things that I'm trying to teach. I'm not trying to raise a D1 athlete because his college is already paid for. I want him to have a good time, hang out with his homies, stay out of trouble, and be a good man. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That seems to make a lot of sense. Yeah. I just still imagine some of those Little League coaches, they just see that Little League World Series on at the bar once a year and they're like, I want to be that guy, Yeah,
and they do. And what they don't realize is, my son is very, very good, man. And he's ranked at 9 years old. He is ranked as one of the best players in the country already.
Holy smokes.
And people come up to me and go, how do you do it? And I go, 0 private lessons, number 1. Number 2, my son loves it. He absolutely wants to play all the time. And you know what I do? I play with him.
Mm.
It's that simple. I play with my kid. He freaking loves it and wants to play. I don't hire batting coaches and I don't hire and all these other guys. He's got, private lesson on Thursday and for batting. And then he's got a private lesson on Saturday morning for fielding. And I'm like, guys, you're beating these kids up. And I never yell at my kid. As a matter of fact, my kid will yell at me while we're practicing. I'll walk off and my son will go, Dad, where are you going? And my response, and he already knows my response, my relationship with you, son, is more important than baseball. And you're worked up, you're yelling, and that's not fun for me as a dad in our relationship. So I'm not upset that you missed the ball 5 times in a row. I don't care. You're the one making a big deal, and I'm not comfortable with it. So I'm going to go inside. And then he'll go, no, I'll fix it. I go, great. Because my relationship with you is more important than you hitting a home run.
Wow. Now, is that the way you were raised?
No.
How would your dad have handled that situation?
Dude, my dad would have been like, get your shit together. You want to play ball or not? Pick your glove up, put your ass down, let's go. What is wrong with you? You're wasting my time. That's what I got, right? And then I'm over there crying. Now you're crying. You're crying, you little bitch. And it's like, oh, awesome.
Dry him up or I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah. All healthy, Dad. This is awesome. I think I'm going to go be a comedian. Thanks for the abuse.
Yeah. Do you ever want your son to be a comedian? Feel like, maybe you should give him a few more bits in his repertoire?
Never. I don't want my kid in this business at all.
Yeah.
It is a dirty, gross business. And as a Mexican American, he has no chance. It is impossible almost. And I hope that changes. And I hope that it gets better. But as a Latino in this business, it is literally almost impossible.
Yeah, dive into that a little bit. I'm a pretty white guy on both sides of the deal. So if I were doing roofing, I would be very sunburnt immediately. I would have melanoma right now.
They'd be calling you güero. They'd be like, "Oh, here comes the güero." That means white guy.
Yeah.
So let's play a little game.
Yeah.
How many truly famous comedians who are of Latin descent have ever hosted SNL?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
There's zero. In 45 years of SNL, zero Mexican American comedians have ever hosted SNL. Let's play another game. How many Mexican American comedians that you know have had a network sitcom?
One.
Lopez, and then Cristela had one for a season.
Yeah, she was a guest. It was just a season, right?
Just one season.
Okay.
Only George Lopez is in sitcom syndication. How many? And now let's get rid of the idea of stand-up comedy, right? How many leading Latino men can you think of? TV show, movies, anything. It's crazy, right? Michael Peña, he works. Sofia Vergara, Eva Longoria, Salma Hayek, Antonio Banderas. But we're already running out of names.
Yeah. No,
right?
Yep.
So how many Black comedians have hosted SNL? The list goes on forever.
Right.
How many Black comedians have had TV shows? The list goes on forever. How many Latinos have had HBO specials? 4 in the history of comedy. So when you look at the numbers and you look at the odds of a Mexican American working in this business, it is slim to none. Right? Because, like I said, only George Lopez has had a sitcom. I've never even had a sitcom deal. Not even a deal. The funny part is you're going to get a lot of comments. So I'm going to go ahead and answer those comments because people are going to go, oh my God, here we go. He's crying about race. Why don't you just work harder? First of all, I'm not crying about it because I continue to work hard and I continue to succeed, right? I'm simply putting the facts out there, right? And I had to work and I continue to work my butt off to continue to succeed. Every one of my specials is self-produced. I produced it. I paid for it. My wife directed it. I paid for it. No, I've never been given a special. Now, Simple Man was paid for partially by Netflix, and I greatly appreciate Netflix for doing that. But when you look at the scope of being a success as a Latino and a Mexican American in the business, there's just not that many of them.
And you don't see that changing at all, as you don't see that changing. Yeah, I guess you don't see that changing.
You try, John Leguizamo, man, good for him. He you got to look at his Emmy speech because he talks about this exactly in his Emmy speech. And he says, well, tonight I'm less angry. He goes, because this is the first Emmys ever to have this many Latinos nominated. So I think Selena Gomez won something for Murderers in the Room or whatever. But John Leguizamo addresses it in his speech. And I hope it changes. And I fight very hard for it to change. And I hope, I'm continuing to press forward to hopefully be that person or part of the people that make things change, So I'm doing what I can and doing my part by doing my podcast with my wife, who is also Mexican American, showing America that we can succeed. My specials have been successful. I sell tickets in Wisconsin. I sell tickets in Boston. I sell tickets in Canada, proving that we can succeed. So hopefully there's somebody or something that can break that barrier to change it, because the bigger issue is that we're always the stereotype.
Yeah.
We're, every audition I get is accent, Spanish. Can you do that? And I will say I am starting to get auditions that are just general auditions, which for the first time in my entire career, these past 5 years, I am getting general auditions, but not a lot, right? So, when I started in this business in 1999, nobody had a TV show, and there was only 3 famous Latino stand-up comedians in the world, and that was George Lopez, Paul Rodriguez, and Carlos Mencia. in the world. 3. And that was 1999. So for me to get in the business at 99 thinking, oh man, I got a shot. I was out of my mind because at that point, George Lopez didn't even have a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and in a lot of ways, you kind of look at where the industry as a whole is going, and that's frankly imploding in a large way. And a lot of what's happening is people are following people like you or people like me or whoever. They have sort of a niche audience. And then you get these sort of like you have a whole production company in addition to a touring thing, with the podcast and your clips and all of that. And so you have these audiences that are kind of like, I like this thing, I'm subscribed to this, I guess, or I'm following this. I like this, I'm following that. Do you see that as better than having these networks kind of decide? Or do you wonder if that just fragments us more? Does that bring us more together or fragment us more?
I think it brings us more together, because I get to be on social media. I get to put it out there, and then people decide whether they want to be a fan of mine or not. And it doesn't matter race. I'm not a race guy. I mean, my show is white, family. Black, family, I mean, it didn't matter to me. So I think it's bringing us more together because I used to say, hey, I want to do a show in Boston. And they would go, Steve, there's no Mexicans in Boston. We'll set your tour up in the Southwest. So I had to overcome that. And through my career, I keep overcoming the no's, right? So when I first started, they would go, he's funny, but nobody really knows who he is. Okay, I'll make people know who I am. I'll go, right? Then people started to know who I am. And then I'd go into a meeting and they would go, well, you just don't have that many social media followers. Okay, got you. That's your no. I'll go get social media followers. Boom, I get the social media followers. I come back. That's what you told me the no was. You said people didn't know me. Fix that. You told me I needed social media followers. Fix that. Right? So what's the no now? Right? And I go, so give me the next no, because I will continue to give you the yes, right? When Gabriel Iglesias sells out Dodger Stadium, not once, but twice, and he still has not been invited to host SNL.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand that, but I also think that's why traditional media is
dying,
imploding. Yeah.
Yes, 1,000%. And that goes back to our conversation from earlier, where I told myself, I'm not going to play within the industry standards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to now go into social media. Then another one was, well, Steve, have you had anything go viral? Yeah, I have one clip that has 200 million views. Is that viral enough for you guys?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, it's almost like I feel like it gets to the point of like those people who are saying no. It's just there's less and less a point to keep going back and pitching, And
1,000%.
the thing I have doesn't involve anything race. It involves region of Midwest. And I've had people say similar things about you can't do it. But you realize that the people you're trying to talk to are everywhere. There are Midwest people everywhere. There are Mexican people everywhere. And what they want is to have that sense of community. And that's what you provide in a lot of ways.
One of the biggest things that every football fan knows is the Bears.
Yeah, right.
The Bears.
Yeah, and as a Packers fan, I kind of resent that, but I agree.
But you cannot get more Midwest than that SNL bit.
Right.
But everybody loves it because it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. And it's an insight into the Midwest, right? Just like rap and gangster rap is an insight into that world.
Yep.
We all want to. I grew up in a country farm town. I related with NWA. I related with the Ghetto Boys and Tupac and Biggie because they were saying something, and I was learning about their world.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I mean, it's bringing people together versus apart. And that's what I love about what I do is I do sell out when I go to Wisconsin. I just sold out the Chicago Theater Saturday night, downtown Chicago. I'm going to sell out the Wilbur in Boston again. I'm going to sell out in Toronto. So I'm able to do what I do outside of that and continue to go. But there is some insecurity and some hope of some validation from the industry that I still yearn for.
Oh, you still do want that.
You still yearn for it because you go, at least I want to tell you no. Even, I would love for them to come and go, Steve, we want to pay for a pilot. And I'm going to go, finally. But guess what? No. Because then I have to move back to LA. Then I have to work on a pilot. Then I have to make less money than I would make to go on the road.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like to be in the industry at a high level or work on a pilot, you are sacrificing. They're not paying a ton of money for that. So you are sacrificing all that road money to do it. So it's really got to be sort of worth it. And yeah.
But I'm also sacrificing being a good husband to my wife and being a good kid to my a good parent to my kids, where, man, I make money podcasting. I make money on the road. And guess what? I get to do it from Texas and I get to come home and I get to be with my family. And I make more money than I do with you guys. But then I have to ask myself, does this then make me sell more tickets?
Yeah. Yep. No, and that is a questionable thing, because there's the network numbers. They're just not there. Not what you can get 200 million, some that everyone dreams of, But
and nothing against the Tonight Show, but people go, do you want to do the Tonight Show? And my answer is, yeah, I would love to do the Tonight Show. However, my social media has better ratings than the Tonight Show.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and you can doing the Tonight Shows. Yeah, sometimes people won't even be a blip on people's radar or on your Wikipedia.
All I'm going to do is take my Tonight Show clip and put it on social media.
Right. Exactly.
Like, yeah. Hey, dude, thanks for the great clip. Let's put it on social media.
It's funny, man. It's funny how quick it's changing. Listen, we're almost at time, but before I let you go, we got a segment here. It's called What Makes You Say Cripes. Now, cripes is kind of like, cripes, what's a pet peeve of yours? What's something you got to get off your chest?
I love it. What's something that gives me cripes is people not being on time.
Oh,
that is the one that, like, if I am, to me, on time is late.
You're one of those guys.
You have to be early, and I get anxiety and I go crazy, and me and my wife get in huge fights over it, and my poor assistant stresses out over it because I am it's one of those deals where, like, well, Steve, we don't have to be there till 2. It takes 20 minutes to get there. Why are we leaving at 12:55? Because cripes, if I'm late, something could happen. I could get stopped by a train. I could get a flat tire. I have to be early, and I have to have other people be on time. And when they're not on time, I will never. And by the way, we need to work together. I would love to have you on one of my shows.
Oh, that would be awesome.
But I would never fire a comedian. I've only done it one time, because they were late once as an opening act. Then the next day they were late again, and I fired them because I'm like, buddy, we talked about this. How am I here and I'm the headliner before you?
Yeah.
You're the opening act. We all need to feel comfortable that this show's going to start. And you showed up late once. I had a conversation with you about it, told you, don't let it happen again. And then it happened again. You're fired.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that makes me go cripes.
Where did that come from? The being on time thing. Was that your dad thing? Was that working at 12? Where did it come from?
My dad, for sure, always instilled in me that you should be at your job 30 minutes before, that your job needs to see you there, that you need a moment of relaxation before you work, and make sure that if anything happens that you're there. So a lot of it was my dad, but I'm also dyslexic. So I'm also afraid that there's some anxiety there of, like, did I get it wrong? Am I going to screw up? I don't want to screw up. I want to get it right.
Yeah.
So I have learned over the years that I can avoid my own mistakes by getting there early.
Got it. So That's really interesting. I like hearing where you come from on that. I grew up in a family of 12 kids.
Jesus,
And
and I'm Mexican. Good Lord.
It's a Catholic,
Yeah.
there was no plan on that.
And it was
other
cold.
Than,
It was cold.
It was cold and there was nothing good on the TV. But, so when we grew up, we were late for everything because there were 12 of us. And so that's something now that each one of the siblings has taken on. My whole family is late for everything, except nobody in my family now has the excuse of 12 kids.
12. Yeah. In one station wagon. You have your own car. You have your own stuff.
We had a 15-seater van. Fit everyone in that one with the big ass that hangs out, one of those church vans.
And you know what's even crazier in Hollywood? I have literally been told, can you not be here so early?
Oh, really?
Like, it makes people uncomfortable in Hollywood.
Well, I mean, LA, that's the traffic in Hollywood has just allowed everybody to be late and it to be, kind of the fine thing,
I was sitting here waiting for 10:30. I sat down at 10:15.
Shit, I was late for this interview letting you in. I pissed you off right off the top.
No, I was telling Tatiana, my assistant, I go, it's 10:30. What's going on? What? But not because I'm upset. It's just because I like to be, prompt.
Yeah. I'll also just say this quick. The amount of stress that I've incurred in my life driving places because I'm late and trying to think of like, oh, I'm an ass or whatever. The amount of that stress and probably cortisol that created, the stress hormone, it's probably going to kill me 10 years early. So
probably, that's where cancer comes from, bro. Way to go.
Thanks for reassuring me. I appreciate that. The only thing that makes me feel good about this is you're probably just as stressed getting there 45 minutes early. So
yeah, it does the same thing. It's the same anxiety, right? Where I'm like, oh my God, I can't be there 10 minutes early. What's wrong with me? I mean, look, at the end of the day, as comics, we're neurotic, we're crazy, we're happy at times, we're super angry at times, we're bitter, it all comes with the territory,
Yeah.
We are crazy, crazy human beings, but that's what makes us talented and funny. I mean, the neurosis. I mean, there's some comics that their whole thing is their neurosis, and it's hilarious,
right?
Because we all feel it, we all get it,
Yeah, and I like that about comedy in general. Is just you can dive into your truth, however unpleasant it is or messed up it is, and in like exploring it, people relate to it. And you kind of can release it a little bit and just give someone to.
I feel like that's where comics kind of, a lot of comics are not willing to open themselves up and be where they're at, right? And be real. And I think that stifles a lot of careers. I mean, you got guys that are married but want to get laid on the road. So they're not going to mention their wife and they're not going to mention their kids, and they have a motive behind it. Or they wrote a bit when they were single that was about being single and they never wanted to get rid of it.
Right.
Where they were like, well, I can't tell people I'm married. This bit's not going to work.
Then write a new bit.
Write a new bit. Right. So, I think it does hold people back. And I think what makes me successful is I have no problem being who I am. And that was actually the big leap in my career, when I was very comfortable in being married to my wife. When
you embrace that.
When I embraced it and I said, hey, am I frustrated with my wife? Yes, but God, I love her and I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And the audience felt it. And before that, it was, God, this guy's really mad at his wife.
Yeah.
So it changed it, I've seen it in a lot of comics. I've seen comics who are so brash and so aggressive, and then they have kids, and then they take the same aggression, but having the kid just softened it a little bit, and now it's funnier than ever because there's something behind it than just being brash and aggressive.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I know a comic exactly like that. Well, I think that's a great sort of place to kind of wrap it up. But it's diving into yourself to find your true thing. That's the most relatable. That's the gold right there.
And as a Packers fan, and I want you to be honest, and we can wrap it up. Did Dez Bryant catch that ball?
Don't ever ask me to be honest on my own podcast. And yes. Okay. Yes. And during the Lambeau leap, Reggie White never stepped out of bounds. Okay.
That's right.
I'll go down the rabbit hole and defend.
Man, I hope we get to work together. Please, please get my number.
Yes. Yes.
Really enjoyed this conversation, man. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for this week. Big thanks to Steve Trevino for coming on the show. You can follow him on Instagram at Texas Trevino. You can follow him everywhere else at Steve Trevino. And you can follow us at Crepescast on all your social media platforms. So anyways, thank you guys. Thanks to Hannah Milos for editing. Thanks to Colleen Maraca for producing. Thanks to all of you for listening. Everybody keep her moving. Watch for deer, and we'll see you next week.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.